As we become UX designers, we are so focused on learning the hard skills that sometimes we forget soft skills are just as important. No matter what we specialize in, having both of these set of skills is really crucial for our growth as a designer. So for today's video, I'm going to talk through the 6 soft skills that we need to become better UX designers. And it'll probably come to no surprise that a lot of us already have been developing the skills since we were children. Number 1 is teamwork. And if you're someone who says that you're a sole designer and freelancer and this doesn't apply to you, just know that it still applies to you, because even if you're not working with designers, you are still working with other people and other teams, whether it's like stakeholders, like your clients, whoever you're interacting with, that teamwork skill still applies, and it's very important to have. So the better you can work with your team, the better the outcome will be in terms of quality of work and the quality of your relationships at work. So some of the advantages of having this skill would be that better teamwork skills lead to better results in terms of seeing different perspectives, seeing different angles to the problems and solutions that you're working on. When all of those different perspectives come together, there's usually an improvement to the work that you've done, and you just get a better solution and outcome. The other advantage is you just create more genuine relationships through your teamwork skills, and this just leads to better mood and attitude overall within a team. Last one also applies to all these other different skills, and that's just career and self-development. So obviously, as you improve in these skills, or I guess specifically teamwork skills, get to know who you work well with, who you don't, different personalities, and the more you know kind of yourself and how you work with other people, you start to learn and grow personally and also kind of in your career as well when you are trying to move on to a different company. Number 2 is presenting. So this one I'm not the biggest fan of, but I will say it's very, very important to have as a skill. And that's because the reality of our job is 50% of the time we are presenting to designers, managers, like literally anyone who's involved within the process, you will be presenting to. And this could be a form in like design reviews, design critiques, design handoff to devs. And the other part is that you'll also be presenting in interviews. Literally, when we're not doing any discovery work, research, designing, we are presenting, and that's a big part of our job. So this is a very important skill to have. Some of the biggest advantages of having this skill is that it forces you to be short and concise, which is also another skill that you develop when presenting. Obviously, during these presentations, you can't really say everything you want to say. You have to learn how to condense your information and say as little as possible, but with the most impact. And the other advantage is that you naturally improve your communication skills. This is because you are talking constantly, just like I am to the camera now. I'm also kind of presenting, obviously not in front of people, but recording wise, I'm constantly talking and having to say things in a way where it makes sense and that is short and concise, and I'm getting to the point, because obviously you guys don't want to watch like an hour-long video saying the same thing. Number 3 is a 3-in-1 skill, I would say, and that is being resilient, adaptable, and being patient. So the reason why I put all these 3 together is because they kind of go hand in hand. And that's because as a designer, we are told no a lot. Sometimes projects just don't go our way, or they just don't happen at all. Sometimes there's a lot of feedback and critique that we have to like change everything. And you know, those are all just negative things that we have to deal with as a designer. So instead of becoming like depressed, mopey, negative, you know, even angry about it, you're gonna have to learn how to bounce back from the setback. And the best way to kind of get good at being all 3 is to not get attached to a project, because it's very likely that things won't go the way you want it to, and when you're too attached, there's too many emotions involved, and that results to, you know, negative mood and attitude towards what you're working on. So try your best to detach those emotions and just think of it as more of like an iterative process that you will get back to and get better at. So some of the advantages from having this skill is that you're able to bounce back quick. You can really adapt to a situation, and you can move on from projects to projects without without having to be too upset about it. The other advantage is that you can find a solution quicker. And that's because, back to the first point, is since you're not attached, you can bounce back from those setbacks. You usually get a bit more motivated into trying to find another solution. The faster you can get out of that negative mental space, the faster you can find a solution, and usually it's a better one. Number 4 is active listening. So of course, with any job, you're going to be listening to your peers all the time, but the difference is that sometimes people are actually not like listening and engaging or like being present, and that's why I added the active part into this skill. Because reality, you could be having a conversation with someone or be in a meeting, but you could literally be daydreaming or thinking of something else, or just not really in tune with the conversation, and that also means that you're not taking the information the way you should be. But once you're able to actively listen to your peers, there is a very big change in the way you do work and produce the work. So some of the advantages of having the skill and like the outcomes of it is that you're more productive during meetings. So this is kind of obvious in the sense that if you're in an hour-long meeting and you are not listening in the hour-long meeting, there's a very high chance that you will probably have to create a new meeting to kind of go over things again, or you might have to take more time to maybe slap the person after the meeting to clarify on the things that you weren't listening to. But if you are actively listening and engaged, present during that 1 hour meeting, you can understand things a lot faster. And who knows, if you're really into the conversation, sometimes an hour meeting can turn into 30 minutes. The other advantage is that you're more efficient during these projects. So kind of going back to my first point, when you're able to really listen and take in the information the first time around, you can just kind of get onto the project without having to ask extra questions if you don't need to. And the last advantage is that people rely on you more. So obviously, when you can get stuff done earlier, or there's not much questions you have and like not much back and forth, not much friction between who you're working with, they can kind of rely on you when they need things done. So I think that's a really big advantage, because if you're someone who wants to always be put on projects or be that person, you know, the go-to person for the things to get done, there you are, you have that, and you have more projects to add to your case studies. Number 5 is storytelling. I think this is a super underrated skill that more people need to work on. I think it's really crucial for us to get good at this, and actually makes us a lot better designers. So the reason why storytelling is just so crucial in our job is because this is how we share ideas and experiences to those who might not understand like complex problems. And storytelling is just more of a universal thing that people can really understand, and it just sets like a common goal and common ground with everyone who's involved in the projects. And because storytelling in itself, it's just so easy to understand when you do it right, it really reduces cognitive load because there's an actual structure and sequence that everyone can follow. So kind of the biggest advantages for having this skill is that you can explain difficult concepts through behaviors, emotions, reactions, motivations, and even goals. There's just so many ways of approaching a story that people can really get on board with and really understand pretty easily. And the other advantage is that you can engage and persuade stakeholders. Last but not least, and I think it's probably one of the most important ones, is communication. No matter how amazing your design skills are, it doesn't matter, because if you can't properly articulate and talk through your design decisions and explain why you did what you did, the conversation just won't go anywhere. And that's because no one really will understand or be on board with what you're trying to say, and sometimes the projects can fail through that. So some of the biggest advantages of having this skill is that you can help stakeholders change their mind or persuade them into the right direction. Like I said with storytelling, it's kind of the same thing here. If you're using the right words at the right time with right visuals, all of that kind of comes together, and it really helps push stakeholders into the right direction of where you want it to go. Another advantage is that it helps design go your way. The right way, right? Like the way you want it to. And that's, again, going back to communication. If you can say the right things, the right time, explain in clear, concise words, why would anyone say no, right? So that's kind of where I'm getting at here. The other thing is Although you want things to move forward, sometimes you want things to not move forward, and that's being able to push back on decisions that you don't agree with. As you can see, without any of these soft skills, it's really hard to excel in becoming a good designer. But I will say these skills aren't something you should be worried about because it's something that we've all been developing since we were a baby. It's just sometimes we need that extra push and have that time to brush up on them to get better at it. But sooner or later it'll become second nature and you won't even have to think about it. So please do not neglect these skills because it is crucial to your growth as a designer. But if you're someone who's continuing to find ways to be a better designer, you can check out this video over here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!